Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am putting my experiment hat on, and this is going to be a multiple part series. So for this first part, I'm going to do in each part 4 different golds. They are mixed with just paint and water. I have my mixtures that I have created over the years, and I also have a few little added extras that I use depending on the brand that I use. But I get the question all the time, how do you use just paint and water, and why you use just paint and water? And also, how do you get the cells that you get? So I wanted to do a test because I know the mixtures that work for me. I wanted to do a test of multiple different brands to see which one works. So there's going to be lots of information. This is kind of going to be like one of my old school teaching videos that I used to do. I'm using the same color set for each one. So when you experiment, you change one thing and hold all else constant. So that's what I'm going to do. There's going to be multiple variables to this. I'll show you the pictures at the end. And then in the last part, I might do one final one with the mixtures I use and then what I learned from the series. But at the end, I'll show you all of them and give my critiques. So I'm going to get you down on a couple of documents that I made and consistency tests that I did, and then we'll get painting. So let's paint. For the first part, just to show you, this is a consistency sheet that I created quite a few years back when I was doing my swipe technique course. This is the one for Dutch pours though. And if it runs down in between these lines right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. As long as it comes down past this and doesn't run past this line, this is a good consistency for me. And it doesn't matter what pouring medium you use, even if it's not paint and water. And I use a little triangle to make sure that I get the same angle each time. I actually do it on this side to get the same angle each time when I'm tilting, and I use my circles at the top. But just to show you the base that I'm using and the colors and all of the golds that I mixed up all are the same consistency. Next up, I went ahead and, so let me see. Oh yeah, you can see it in the light. So I went ahead and brushed it. Hold on, let me focus you. I went ahead and brushed a little bit of each one on, and then on the back of each sheet, I'm going to go through the colors, the cell creation, whether it cracks or breaks when it dries. So here are the first ones. So today we're going to be going over Blicks, Amsterdam Standard Series, Tri Art, and Liquitex Basics. So you can see how beautiful they are in the light. I will say, I think probably Blicks and Amsterdam brand are my least favorite as far as like the shimmer goes. Now, I will say for Tri Art, I actually used, and I'll show you the bottles, I bought the deep gold instead of regular gold, so that's why it looks so different. But here are my mixing recipes if you want to take a snapshot of it. Each one had a little bit different water ratio to get the right consistency. What surprised me the most was Tri Art only took 15 grams of water, but it's still really thick and creamy in the tube. And Liquitex Basics was pretty normal, Amsterdam was pretty normal, and Blicks was pretty normal. So this was the recipe that I used. And on the back, I tell you the price per, you can calculate it. So this was basically $1 per ounce, $2 per ounce. This one, the Tri Art, was crazy, $10 per ounce. This is the most expensive. So this is going to need to be like life-changing for me to continue getting that one. I bought all of these myself. I'm not sponsored by any of the video or any of the companies. And then Liquitex Basics was about $1.25 per ounce. So all of the rest of these are pretty comparable price-wise. Each of the colors I have listed here, and these say semi-opaque. That's the reason that I drew them on these lines. I would say Liquitex Basics, I would say it's semi-transparent, in between semi-transparent, semi-opaque. Blicks is definitely more transparent semi-transparent. Amsterdam, pretty semi-opaque, and then Tri-Art, pretty semi-opaque, maybe a little bit closer to opaque. But that is the first part of the test. So as I go through these, I'm going to fill in the backs after they dry, and I'll show you that again. All right, so let's get down. Before I do, I'll show you the bottles really quick. So this is Blick here. You can see it's just regular gold. The information there. This is Amsterdam. You can see the information there. Tri-Art is tiny. Oh. So that is iridescent gold deep. I accidentally bought this one instead, and I was not spending another $20-something to buy more. And there's the information on that one. And then the last one for this video is the Liquitex Basics acrylic. And the top, I pulled the top off because I poured way too much paint. I was trying to put it back into the tube, and the top, I cannot get it to actually pop back on now. So, but if you want to see the information, you can always look online as well, but that's the back information there. I had gold everywhere, all over my fingers. Oh, see, the top just pops right off, but there's the front of that one. Let me see. There you go. All right, now we can get to actually painting and seeing what these are like. All right, well, I hope that you are enjoying this kind of instructional type video. They're going to be a little bit longer. That's why I decided to do them in like a couple parts, because this would have been like multiple hours of video, and some people don't learn that way. But I am going to do the same color. So the colors that I chose a transparent and an opaque, and both in blue, in phthalo blue and in turquoise green. And so the reason I did that is because sometimes some metallics will react differently with phthalo blue, and that is where I will see, or like a transparent type color, like blue violet or magenta. That's where I'll see a lot of the cracking and breaking. And what I mean by that is kind of the paint will almost like flocculate a little bit. It will become grainy, and it will separate a little bit, and it just looks like the paint underneath kind of came up. And so when that happens, I'm looking for that. I'm looking for whether or not they make cells. I'm looking for the actual gold and which color I like the best. So I'm going to put these to the side and get started here. So I am going to use the small blow dryer because these are 8x8 inch canvases, and I didn't want to use up so many big canvases because I had to buy all of these paints. I also bought all of the paints for silver to try that out as well. So I already was in a lot, so I don't want to use up a ton of big canvases on this. But I am going to go ahead and layer the base coat now, and then I'll pour the colors, and I'm going to try to keep them pretty similar. So I've got one here, one here, one here, and one here. And then everybody's taste is a little bit different, so you can let me know which gold you like the best and what your experiences have been. I'm using Amsterdam brand paints for all the other paints because that's what I normally use, but you may get a different result if you're using a completely different brand, because a lot of times cells come from adding metallics or mixing brands together that have different chemicals in the acrylic binder themselves. Okay, I'm giving you a lot of information. I'm gonna blow these out. I'll be right back. All right, have them all blown out, and now I'm going to layer my colors. So I'm using a dark base. So I'm gonna do them a little bit offset right there. A little bit of color on each one. So I'm gonna layer the turquoise, then I'm going to layer the phthalo blue, Then I'm going to layer the gold and then a little bit of white drizzled in with it. Okay, so next up, I'm very proud of myself. I'm not putting too much paint on here. Doing pretty good. Whoop, okay. I spoke a little too soon, I feel like. All right, now, I don't think I need this for that. So this is going to be my tri-art. This is my Amsterdam. So each paint brand is a little bit more or a little bit less cell reactive. And I think it has to do with the binders that are in each of the paints. And so I can already see the Amsterdam is actually sinking down through. The Blicks is really sitting on top. The tri-art is sitting on top. And Liquitex Basics is sitting on top. So this Amsterdam is sinking very far down through there, which is very interesting. Now a little bit of white just to brighten things up. And the Amsterdam Titanium White interacts with other brands to give really good cells. Okay. I feel like, did I give the Amsterdam enough? Let me see. I'm going to do one more little bit. Let me see. I still feel like it's sinking down through there a little bit. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to blow these out. I'm going to swipe over and then back out in a petal formation. I will say for this first one, I'm pretty underwhelmed at it all. The tiny little bit of cells of gold that you see here are from the air bubbles popping. Tri-art started to make some cells, but then when I blew it out, they were gone. The Amsterdam made a tiny little bit of cells, but not much. So these canvases, I'm going to let them dry for the sake of the experiment, but I would say that none of these were very successful metallics if you want cells and lacing. And I didn't know about Tri-art or the Blicks, but I know that Amsterdam, I love all things Amsterdam except their metallics. Okay, I should say they're like gold, silver, they're metal metallics, not their color metallics. All right, let me... All right, so first experiment, I'll play with this one in just a second. First experiment, I don't really like any of these golds. In part 2, I'm going to be trying out 4 more different ones. and we're going to take a look at those cells and lacing. And then we're going to keep going. Of course, I couldn't buy every single brand that's out there, but as long as you know you can do the same thing, mix them to the same consistency, keep all your other paints the same, and test it out this way. All right. I'll take you in, let you see what they look like, and then we'll see how they dry. Okay. Liquitex Basics. Nothing really to write home about for cells. I will see if there's any cracking and breaking, and then I'll see how the gold shines. Try art. Not super impressed. Yeah, not super duper impressed here for the price. Here is Amsterdam. I did get a little bit of a reaction with the phthalo blue. We'll see how it dries. But overall, not impressed with this one. This one is Blicks. Again, almost all the gold is like gone, which is a little bit of the way I blew it, but you can still see some of the gold in all the other ones. And I also don't like this color gold very much. It's much lighter. It almost looks silver. A little bit brown and a little bit silver. Like here, let me see if I can put the two of these. You see the difference? That's Liquitex Basics. That's Blicks. Let me get the other ones too. That's Triart, although it's deep gold, so you gotta, and then let me get this one. So here's the actual colors. Amsterdam, Liquitex Basics. This is the prettiest gold, I think. Blicks, not impressed with the color. And Triart, this is their deep gold. All right. Let's see how these dry, and then make sure to like and subscribe if you find this helpful. And I will see you in just a minute, and then make sure you check out part 2. Okay, y'all, these are dry. I'm going to go through each one and then show you my little sheet that I had that I filled out. So this is Blicks here. So no cracking or breaking anywhere. These tiny little dots are just from air bubbles. But the gold, you can't really see the gold. And that could be the way I blew it, but a lot of times, even in all 3 of the others, there was some gold that came out. So, and I didn't really like that light color on it. But no cracking or breaking in this one. So, but no cell creation. So I have it on a scale of 0 being bad, 5 being good. So the color, I would give it a 1. I don't really care for the color that much. And this is nothing against any of these brands. This is just about the way the paints that I use with paint and water just to do a test. So nothing, if y'all use these, I'm not telling you to use any specific types. I'm just doing this experiment for myself. Cell creation, it got a 0, no cells. Cracking and breaking, I gave it a 4. I could give it a 5, but I would want to test it in some more colors first. We already talked about the price, so the price is good, semi-opaque. So no cells, the gold kind of sank in it, and at least it didn't break, but nothing else for that. But the not cracking and breaking is important. This is Amsterdam. Let me see if I can, I wanted to try to, I'm laying you on the table because I don't have enough to put them all on the wall, but I think you can get the idea. The gold is really, really pretty. So I gave the color, this is the light gold color, I gave the color a 4. Cell creation, I gave it a 1 instead of a 0 because I did get some of these cells, but again, this is, I wasn't expecting a ton of cells because if you use all the same brand, I don't normally get a ton of cells anyway. So I wasn't expecting too much here. And I know that Amsterdam brand doesn't normally crack or break. I feel like this was the one as well that the gold sank through a little bit, but when I blew it out, it definitely showed back up. So the painting itself is very pretty. I may keep this one. I have something different that I'm going to do with the ones that didn't turn out. So color, good color. Cell creation, meh. On this one, I gave it a 1. Cracking and breaking, I gave it the best score, 4 or 5.
Price is actually pretty decent. So created some cells with the blue, not much, but at least no cracking and breaking there. Next up is TriArt, and this is what I mean by, and this is actual cracking. I'll show you breaking when I get one that has it. But there are literal cracks in the drying process. You can see it here too. So TriArt for me, again, TriArt makes some beautiful colors. They have really pretty fluid acrylics. I am just testing this out with paint and water. So please don't think, oh my gosh, I should never buy TriArt. That's not what this video is about. But it did have some issues. I also bought the wrong color, but you can see it's not that shiny for the parts that I can see here, but I did buy the wrong color, so that was my fault. So for TriArt, so I gave it a 2 or a 3 for the color. Cell creation, 0. Cracking and breaking, I gave it a 1, a pretty bad score. It didn't crack and break everywhere, but yeah, definitely did in some parts. So that got a low score. Cracked in some places, and it's very expensive. So this one's definitely out for me. Next up is Liquitex Basics, and this one, the color itself is actually quite pretty. The gold is quite pretty, super bright. And this one surprised me because I thought for sure that this one was going to crack and break just because it's the student version of Liquitex and it's relatively inexpensive, but it held up pretty well. So that definitely surprised me, but no cells. So for this one, color, very pretty, super bright gold. Cell creation was a 0. Cracking and breaking, I'll give it like the rest of them a 4 or a 5 because there were no issues there. Say it should get the same score as Amsterdam, really. And then it's a pretty gold, just no cells. So these are the 4, Liquitex Basics, TriArt, Amsterdam. Amsterdam is still so pretty, even though I didn't get a bunch of gold cells. And then Blicks. So this is the first set. Hopefully you could take screenshots of my information here. And I will see you when I post part 2. We'll be going over 4 more different golds and different brands. So I think I'm going to do 4 total parts of this series, and the 4th part, I will show you what I do with these leftover paintings. I will show you how I mitigate the cracking and breaking, and I'll give you some other ideas if you don't just want to use paint and water. So stay tuned for part 2.